supposed to say yesterday when I seen her.
You see that?
Yeah.
You worry about this.
Okay.
You need to worry about this.
Get into it.
Like the cut. You see that? Not this. This.
Okay.
You see the cut?
Yeah.
You see it in the back?
Oh.
Look.
Oh. Oh.
Okay.
Out the door you got to go. Out the door you got to go. Out the door you got to go. Bye bye. Rock. 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 Bye bye. Rock. 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 Say bye.
On October 22, 2024, a pregnant woman was shot dead by her partner, all because she checked his phone. What she found was a simple like on another woman's picture, but that act, so small and common in modern relationships, would be the spark that ignited a tragedy. The woman was 26-year-old Maya Johnson, and her blood now stains the hands of the man she thought she loved. Following a chilling 911 call from the killer himself, emergency services flooded the house to save her life, but they were too late because Maya Johnson was gone in a matter of seconds after the bullet struck her. This is not just a story about jealousy. It's a brutal example of how toxic relationships and ignored red flags can end in death. Maya Johnson is gone, her unborn child with her, all over a like. This is the life and death of Maya Johnson.
One thing about me, I'm a boss. I don't know what you is, but I'm a boss. I don't know how you working or who you working for, but I'm the boss. You feel me?
This heartbreaking tragedy took place in Tallahassee, Florida, a city known for its affordability and vibrant university life. But beneath its charm, domestic violence was quietly surging. By 2024, multiple victims had already lost their lives in similar incidents, especially in northwest Leon County. This disease would soon infect Maya Johnson's life, dragging her down and making her yet another haunting statistic. Maya Johnson was born on August 29, 1998. She had an energetic, radiant personality and came from a large, loving family. One of 7 siblings, Maya was especially close to her mother, who she credited with instilling in her a tireless work ethic and unwavering resilience. Her life took her between Chicago and Florida, but she eventually settled in Tallahassee, where she would spend the rest of her life. From a young age, Maya was always drawn to the spotlight. She loved to create content, whether it was for fun or for income. Her social media pages, especially on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, were filled with humor, motivation, and joy. She became known for her contagious energy and radiant smile. Maya didn't just entertain online, she also worked hard in the real world. She sold menswear, held down multiple jobs, and was a licensed traveling lash technician. Her entrepreneurial drive kept her busy, but never too busy for what mattered most to her, her family. In 2018, Maya gave birth to her first son, Caden. A year later, she welcomed DJ. Although she had initial doubts during her second pregnancy, she ultimately embraced motherhood wholeheartedly. Her love for her boys ran deep, and she often posted about their bond. She wanted to be their safe space, their number one protector. It was a role she cherished more than any job or business. Maya had been in a relationship before, but it was short-lived. She walked away from it with her sons and a desire to build a better life for them. Then came Jakari Martin. Maya met Jakari 3 years before her death. He was 22 years old and worked in a warehouse. At first, he seemed to mirror Maya's ambition and drive. Their romance blossomed quickly, and before long, they moved into a house together on River Breeze Lane in North Leon County, Tallahassee. But as their relationship progressed, the picture-perfect image began to crack. Maya's social media, once a vibrant scrapbook in her life, never featured Jakari. He was conspicuously absent, which spoke volumes to those who followed her. While she never named him directly, her posts became increasingly vague and emotionally charged. She hinted at betrayal, frustration, and even fear.
I don't know who to slap. I don't know who to slap.
In one post, she admitted to checking his phone. She found things she didn't like, especially involving other women. Her sister would later confirm that this wasn't the first time Jakari's actions had caused tension. These weren't simple arguments. They included physical altercations. Jakari had choked her in the past. Their relationship was toxic and volatile. Despite the growing turmoil, Maya found out she was pregnant again in mid-2024. She was flooded with anxiety. Though she loved her children, she questioned whether Jakari was someone she could safely raise another child with. On October 21, just a day before her death, Maya made it clear, both to herself and online, that she didn't want to continue the pregnancy. She visited Planned Parenthood and posted that she was done having kids, but fate and Jakari had something else in store. On October 22, the couple's ongoing tension came to a head. Maya was already on edge when she saw a notification on her phone. It was Jakari liking a bikini photo of his ex. That was the last straw. When Jakari returned home, Maya confronted him. She demanded to know why he had liked the photo. He downplayed it. "It's just a like," he told her. But for Maya, it wasn't just a like. It was a sign of ongoing disrespect. This wasn't the first time they'd had issues involving the same woman. Her rage boiled over. They argued, shouting, moving from room to room, the kids nearby. Maya texted her sister during the fight, venting that they were arguing again, this time over the same woman. But she wasn't backing down. She wanted answers and her phone back. Eventually, their shouting led them into the kitchen. Neighbors would later recall the loud voices, the sound of objects being thrown. And then, silence, followed by a single, deafening gunshot. Maya Johnson fell to the floor. She was gone. Jakari called 911, his voice frantic. He told dispatch that his girlfriend had been shot and begged for help. He told Maya's kids to go to their rooms. When responders arrived, Maya and Jakari weren't there. He had driven her to Tallahassee Medical Care, but it was too late. Maya Johnson, along with her unborn child, was declared dead on arrival. This was no longer just a domestic dispute. It was a crime scene and the beginning of an investigation that would expose the full horror of what had been going on behind closed doors. Tallahassee police arrived at the hospital shortly after 1 a.m. on October 23. Officers quickly took Jakari Martin Sugren into custody, detaining him as the only witness and prime suspect in what was now a homicide case. His girlfriend, Maya Johnson, was dead. She had been shot in the torso. Her unborn child had died along with her. At first glance, Jakari seemed grief-stricken. He cried. He expressed shock. He claimed that the shooting had been a horrible accident. But the officers weren't convinced. His story, though emotional, had inconsistencies. And so, the investigation began. Detectives immediately began gathering evidence. Their first task was to process the house where the shooting occurred. It was located on River Breeze Lane, a quiet street in North Leon County. When they entered the house, what they found aligned with what the neighbors had reported: signs of a loud, chaotic struggle. Items were scattered throughout the kitchen. There were marks and bruises forming a trail of physical confrontation. Detectives then turned to Jakari himself. They brought him in for questioning. It was there that he offered his version of events. According to Jakari, the argument started after Maya discovered that he had liked a photo on social media, specifically a bikini picture posted by his ex. She confronted him. He admitted he liked the picture, but insisted it was meaningless. He said she didn't believe him and started checking his phone. In retaliation, he took her phone and hid it. He wanted to leave to cool off, but Maya followed him, yelling and trying to get her phone back. Jakari claimed that Maya hit him several times. He said he pinned her down on the bed to stop her from attacking him. When she complained she couldn't breathe, he released her, but it didn't stop there.
Information about the deadly shooting of a pregnant woman in Tallahassee yesterday. Jakari Martin Chagrin told investigators that he and Maya Johnson were arguing at their home on River Breeze Lane. He said he grabbed some of his belongings and was trying to leave when the gun went off. He claims the gun was not in his hand, but pinned against his body. The gunshot killed Johnson and her unborn child.
According to his account, the argument moved to the kitchen, where Maya threw objects at him. He said she continued to demand her phone back, believing he had it in his pocket. That's when he claimed he grabbed his gun, not to use it, but to scare her into backing off. He placed it under his arm, he said, while trying to leave. Then the unthinkable happened. The gun accidentally went off. Maya Johnson was shot in front of her children. The bullet pierced her body and she collapsed. In the panic, he called 911, then put her in the car and drove to the hospital. That was his story. Detectives listened, but red flags began to rise. His demonstration of how the gun was held didn't make sense. Using a toy replica of the weapon, Jakari showed them how the gun was supposedly tucked under his arm, but the angle made it virtually impossible for the trigger to be pulled accidentally. More troubling was the autopsy report and ballistic evidence. Forensic experts found that the angle of the bullet's trajectory didn't match his description. Maya, at 5'4", would not have been in the position he claimed she was standing in when the shot was fired. In fact, the bullet suggested she had been standing much farther back. Detectives then examined the gun. The weapon had no mechanical issues. The chamber held a live round. There was no obstruction. This contradicted the idea that the gun had misfired due to being compressed under his arm. Even more damning, Jakari had no physical injuries. If the gun had discharged, as he claimed, the hot casing should have hit his skin, leaving a burn or abrasion. There was nothing, no marks, no bruises, no injuries consistent with his story. Meanwhile, detectives canvassed the neighborhood and spoke with witnesses. Neighbors described frequent fights between the couple. One said you could practically set your watch by how often they argued on the weekends. Loud voices, slamming doors, and crying children were common. Officers pulled up past records. Police had responded to the residents twice in the previous 6 months. On one occasion, they arrived during a domestic disturbance. Maya and Jakari were arguing, and officers could hear Jakari yelling at her for not trusting him. They hadn't made any arrests then. Now, many on the force regretted that decision. As detectives connected the dots, a clearer picture began to emerge. This was not a one-time event. It was a pattern of emotional and physical abuse. When confronted again, Jakari admitted to more than what he had first revealed. He confessed that during previous fights, he had choked Maya. She had once hidden in the kitchen to escape him. The violence wasn't new. It was just escalating. To solidify their case, police spoke with the only other witnesses, Maya's 2 young sons. While it was unclear whether they had seen the shooting with their own eyes, both boys confirmed one devastating truth: Jakari had shot their mother. The evidence against him was mounting. But even so, charging him with murder was a delicate matter. Prosecutors needed to determine whether they had enough to prove intent. His actions, calling 911, trying to get her to the hospital, suggested possible remorse. Was it truly murder, or a manslaughter case born of recklessness and rage? On October 27, 2024, after reviewing all the evidence, police formally arrested Jakari Martin Chagrin. He was charged with 2 counts of manslaughter for the death of Maya Johnson and her unborn child, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. He entered a plea of not guilty. At the bail hearing, the judge denied his release, citing the seriousness of the crime and the potential risk to public safety. The court ruled that Jakari would remain in custody until his trial date. The courtroom was tense. Members of Maya's family wept as the charges were read aloud. The arrest marked a major step forward in the quest for justice. But for Maya's family, it was the beginning of a long and emotional journey. As Jakari Martin Sugrin remained in custody awaiting trial, prosecutors prepared to present a complex and emotionally charged case. With the evidence at hand, eyewitness testimony from the children, forensic inconsistencies, and a documented history of abuse, the prosecution argued that this was not a case of accidental discharge. It was a case of escalating domestic violence that ended in a tragic, irreversible act. The trial began in early 2025. The courtroom was filled with tension from the first day. Maya Johnson's family sat in the front row, wearing shirts emblazoned with her image. They had one goal: justice. The prosecution focused on the facts. They walked the jury through the timeline, highlighted Jakari's history of abuse, and presented expert testimony from forensic analysts who tore apart his version of events. The trajectory of the bullet, the absence of physical injuries, and the unlikelihood of an accidental discharge all pointed to one conclusion: this was no accident. The defense, however, stuck to the original story. They portrayed Jakari as a panicked young man overwhelmed by a volatile relationship, claiming he had no intention of harming Maya. They emphasized his call to 911 and the rushed trip to the hospital as evidence of remorse, not guilt. Ultimately, the jury found Jakari Martin Sugrin guilty of both counts of manslaughter and unlawful possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. During sentencing, the judge didn't mince words. Calling the killing a culmination of unchecked abuse, he sentenced Jakari to 38 years in prison. 20 years for Maya's death, 15 for the death of the unborn child, and 3 for the weapons charges. Outside the courthouse, Maya's family cried and embraced. Justice, though painful, had finally been served. In the weeks following the verdict, the community rallied around the Johnson family. A candlelight vigil was held in Maya's honor, drawing hundreds of mourners. Family, friends, and even strangers came forward to share stories of her bright personality and unwavering strength. Her funeral was filled with pink roses, her favorite color, and pictures of her smiling, always with her sons. A GoFundMe started by her sister raised over $87,000 in a matter of days. Every dollar was placed in a trust fund for her sons, Caden and DJ, ensuring their futures would be protected even without their mother. This tragedy raised difficult but necessary questions. How many warning signs go unignored before violence becomes deadly? Could someone have stepped in earlier? Could law enforcement have done more when responding to those earlier domestic calls? The answers won't bring Maya back, but they can save someone else. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please seek help. Whether it's a friend, a hotline, or a shelter, reach out. No one should have to suffer in silence. Maya Johnson's story is heartbreaking, but it should also be a wake-up call. Domestic violence is not always obvious. It doesn't always start with bruises. It often starts with control, with isolation, with jealousy, and it can end in tragedy if not stopped in time. To everyone watching, let this story be a reminder. Pay attention to the signs, speak up, support victims, and most importantly, don't wait until it's too late. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Should law enforcement have done more? Could social media have helped or hurt the situation? And how can we, as a society, ensure that women like Maya are protected before it's too late? Let me know what you think in the comments section below.